Hello, America. This is JOC, and you're locked into Ranting Politics headline updates. We've got a packed show today that'll make your head spin. From LA literally burning while its mayor parties in Africa, to South Korea's president barricading himself in his compound, we're covering it all. We'll dive into the Pentagon trying to stop some controversial Guantanamo plea deals, break down what the Fed's saying about those interest rates you love to hate, and, get this, Jong Un's latest totalitarian move, declaring war on hot dogs. Yes, you heard that right. Hot dogs. Stick around. It's going to be a wild ride. Los Angeles is literally burning while Mayor Karen Bass faces blistering criticism over her recent $17.6 million cut to the city's fire department budget. The timing couldn't be worse as three massive wildfires tear through the city, forcing 70,000 residents to evacuate their homes in what's becoming the most destructive fire in LA's history. And where was Mayor Bass during this crisis? 7,000 miles away in Ghana, celebrating a presidential inauguration on the taxpayers' dime. As up to 100-mile-per-hour gusts and flames devoured neighborhoods, the LAFD had to make a desperate plea for off-duty firefighters to join the battle. Former mayoral candidate Rick Caruso didn't mince words, calling it a complete failure of leadership as residents pay the ultimate price. Reports of fire hydrants running dry only add fuel to the criticism. The New York Post reports this budget slash wasn't even as deep as Bass wanted. She initially pushed for a $23 million cut. Bass finally touched down in LA Wednesday, meeting with Governor Gavin Newsom amid the scorched ruins. But when Sky News reporter David Blevins repeatedly asked if she had any words for citizens dealing with this disaster, Bass maintained a stone-faced silence. The numbers paint a grim picture. 5 people dead, over 1,000 buildings destroyed, and 3 fires still raging. The Pacific Palisades fire has already consumed 15,000 acres, while the Eaton fire exploded from 2,000 to 10,000 acres in just one day. The Hearst fire adds another 500 acres to the inferno. One evacuated resident summed up the city's frustration perfectly. "I'm born and raised in Los Angeles. I plan my trips around fire season and natural disasters. For someone to be in charge of my town and be nowhere to be found, where were you?" The Pentagon just dropped a bombshell, filing an emergency request to block plea deals for 3 of the most notorious 9/11 terror suspects, including alleged mastermind Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. These deals would have spared them from the death penalty in exchange for life sentences, but Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin isn't having it. According to the Washington Examiner, Austin was blindsided when prosecutors and defendants struck these agreements back in July. The secretary quickly moved to revoke the offers, arguing that the American people deserve to see full military commission trials for these attacks. Principal Deputy Solicitor General Brian Fletcher didn't pull any punches in the appeal, stating that this is a case of unique national importance and that preserving the secretary's authority in these prosecutions is absolutely critical. But here's where it gets interesting. A military judge already ruled in November that these plea deals are valid, throwing out Austin's attempt to cancel them. Mohammed, who spent over 2 decades in U.S. custody, was set to enter his guilty plea this Friday, with his co-conspirators Walid bin Attash and Mustafa al-Hawsawi following next week. This is all playing out at Guantanamo Bay, where only 15 prisoners remain, a stark drop from the 40 detainees there when President Biden took office. Despite Biden's campaign promise to close the facility, it looks like Gitmo will stay open through the next administration. Pentagon spokesperson Sabrina Singh made it clear that Secretary Austin believes the American people deserve their day in court with these cases, not plea bargains behind closed doors. These developments mark a critical turning point in one of the longest-running legal sagas in American history, with the Department of Defense making an unprecedented move to maintain control over how justice is served for the 9/11 attacks. Now news from Seoul, where South Korea's impeached President Yoon Suk-yeol is literally barricading himself inside his fortified compound as investigators make a second attempt to arrest him on insurrection charges. This is getting intense, folks. We're talking barbed wire, bus barricades, and hundreds of armed security personnel protecting the presidential residence in what's being called Korea's Beverly Hills. Acting President Choi Sang-mok is walking a tightrope here, calling for a peaceful arrest while corruption investigator Jong Un is promising to do whatever it takes to break through that security blockade. After last week's failed 6-hour standoff with armed presidential guards, Oh isn't mincing words, vowing this second warrant execution will be the last. The scenes outside the compound are electric, with protesters on both sides braving freezing temperatures to make their voices heard. You've got some demanding Yoon either walk out voluntarily or be dragged out, while others are defending his right to presidential protection until proven guilty. Here's where it gets even more interesting. Investigators are reportedly considering some pretty dramatic options to get to Yoon. We're talking about deploying special tactical police units, bringing in heavy equipment to bust through those barricades, and potentially mobilizing over 2,000 officers for what could be a 3-day operation to wear down those presidential guards. Yoon's legal team is fighting back, claiming the arrest warrant isn't even valid because it was issued by the wrong court. They're also swatting down rumors that the president has fled his residence, calling them malicious attempts to slander him. But with Yoon already impeached and facing criminal charges for his December 3rd attempt to impose martial law, the pressure is mounting by the hour. This standoff has effectively turned one of Seoul's most exclusive neighborhoods into a militarized zone, with the potential for a serious confrontation between government agencies looming larger by the minute. It's a constitutional crisis that's testing the very foundations of South Korea's democracy. Next, let's dive into the Federal Reserve's latest meeting minutes, and folks, they're serving up some serious economic drama. The December gathering showed Fed officials pumping the brakes on their rate-cutting plans for 2025, and here's why. They're getting antsy about inflation and some major policy shifts on the horizon. The Fed has already trimmed rates to between 4.25% and 4.5%, but they've scaled back their expected cuts from 4 down to just 2 for the coming year. And let me tell you, the market's practically betting the house that they'll sit tight at their January meeting. Here's where it gets spicy. Without naming names, the minutes are peppered with concerns about how upcoming changes to immigration and trade policies could shake things up. We're talking about potential impacts from aggressive tariffs, deregulation, and immigration enforcement that's got the Fed playing it extra cautious. Almost everyone at the table agreed that inflation risks are trending up, not down. They're pointing to those surprisingly hot inflation readings and keeping a watchful eye on how new trade and immigration policies might fan those flames. We're still sitting above their 2% target, with core inflation at 2.4%, and the full measure, including food and energy, running at 2.8%. Fed Chair Powell summed it up perfectly when he compared the situation to driving on a foggy night or walking into a dark room full of furniture. You've got to slow down and watch your step. Most officials aren't expecting inflation to hit that sweet spot of 2% until 2027, and they're seeing more risks to the upside than down. Looking ahead, they're eyeing a neutral Fed funds rate of 3% in the long run, but they're in no rush to get there. The message is clear. With policy still running restrictive, they're taking their sweet time to see how things play out. As one Fed official put it, they're well positioned to sit back and watch how the economy responds to their earlier moves. In what might be the most bizarre crackdown of 2025, North Korean leader Kim Jong Un has declared war on hot dogs. That's right, the humble Frankfurter is now considered an act of treason in the Hermit Kingdom, according to recent reports from The Sun. The ban specifically targets a popular South Korean fusion dish called budae jjigae, or army-based stew, which includes hot dogs and Spam among its ingredients. This dish has a fascinating history, born from the resourcefulness of Korean civilians during the 1950s war who created hearty stews from surplus American military base ingredients. The consequences for daring to serve or sell hot dogs are no laughing matter. Vendors caught with these contraband sausages could find themselves serving time in North Korea's notorious labor camps. One vendor from the northern Ryanggang province reported that police and market management have already begun shutting down anyone caught selling the forbidden fare. But this isn't just about hot dogs. It's part of a broader campaign to stamp out Western and South Korean cultural influences. The regime has also banned tteokbokki, a popular South Korean rice cake street food, in their continued efforts to maintain cultural control. And in a bizarre twist that shows just how far this cultural crackdown extends, the regime is now targeting divorced citizens. Reports indicate that divorcees face 1 to 6 months in labor camps, with women receiving notably harsher sentences than men. According to one former detainee, women make up the majority of those imprisoned for the crime of getting divorced, which the government views as an anti-socialist act. And that wraps up today's whirlwind tour through the headlines, from LA's burning crisis to North Korea's puzzling war on hot dogs. What a news day it's been, folks. Stay up to date with all our latest coverage by following us on X at RantingRP. For deeper dives into these stories and exclusive content, head over to rantingpolitics.com. And don't forget, you can also now find us on YouTube and Amazon's Audible app. This is JOC, signing off, and thank you, our loyal listeners, for choosing Ranting Politics headline updates. We'll be back soon with the updates you need to navigate these interesting times. Until then, stay tuned, stay informed, and as always, stay free.
Hey, you brilliant inventors and creators. Have you crafted a product that's ready to break out from the digital world and hit the physical shelves? Imagine your creation sitting proudly in stores like Walmart, Target, and Home Depot, where 90% of purchases still happen. Well, it's time to turn that vision into reality with Product Fury. At Product Fury, we specialize in bridging the gap between online innovation and retail giants. In fact, we have secured millions of dollars of royalty deals for dozens of products at big box retail stores. Whether you're selling gadgets, home goods, or anything innovative, we're here to amplify your reach. Don't keep your product confined to the web. Visit www.productfury.ai today to submit your information for a free product evaluation. Let's get your products out of the internet cloud and into customer carts. Remember, that's productfury.ai. Make the leap from clicks to bricks and see your product thrive in the bustling aisles of major retailers. It's your time to shine on the big stage. Visit us now